Hello. Cool. Cool? All right. So,
Hi, Richie.
how you going?
Very well, thank you.
Can you tell us your name, a little brief history of yourself and what you do?
My name is Michael O'Neill. I come from Maitland in New South Wales. I'm 63 years old and I run a health retreat. I've been doing this for 33 years. I love it. I got into this business, although I was trained as an electrician when I left school, and did many things from truck driving. I was always looking for something that was out of the ordinary, where the emphasis wasn't so much on advancing my career or making a lot of money. I was happy to survive, but I wanted to do something that helped people, something that made an impact, that one day when I get to the end of my life, I can look back and think, wow, I've helped a lot of people. I feel something worthwhile's happened, other than just to look at a bank balance and think I'm richer than everybody else in the street, and I don't think I could derive pleasure from that thought. So here I am at Misty Mountain.
You created a wellness center called Misty Mountain Retreat.
Yes, initially I had a retreat in Glen Innes, just out of Glen Innes, a little place called Emmaville. It was very simple. It was my wife and myself. We had our one little child at the time. And it was a pioneer movement. We didn't know how to do it. There was very little retreats around. I had no qualifications, but I had a passion. And I'd been reading things like Back to Eden by Jethro Kloss, looking at Nathan Pritikin's diet, which was very popular at the time, and many other writers, 18th century writers. So we decided that a health retreat would be a great thing to do. It would help people. And we opened up our doors in 1988 was when, and people came, not many, but a few, and it was a wonderful experience. I just loved it. I love seeing people getting well. We're just people that were given up hope on. My first guest was a man named Joshua. The first thing he told me when I met him, he said, "I'm stuffed. They've given me 3 months to live. I'll do whatever you tell me." And he was 68 years old. So we did nothing that we considered too dramatic, but we did change his life. We showed him how to eat and live, things that in some circles we'd considered quackery. And he lived another 12 years. He died in the year 2000 at 80 years old. And from then on, that was it. We never stopped, and people were happy, people lived longer. It was just it's been a wonderful life. It's just been fantastic. We've always lived in the country. We've always tried to make a very soft footprint on the earth. We've just derived an enormous amount of pleasure in seeing people get well. Just seeing them get happier, live longer, families reunited, and enjoyed the benefits of ourselves too. I became quite a committed vegetarian. Initially, I did it cautiously. I thought, well, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I found it did work. I found that I was healthier. I started to think clearer. I didn't get sick as much as I used to. And just life kept on improving.
Yeah, you realize that a cleaner body is a healthier body, and that goes as far as the health products and the natural products that we can use that you provide people at your wellness centers, like toothpaste or skincare or any sort of pain relief or anything that you would normally go to the pharmacy for. You can get it in a natural form here.
Yes. It never made a lot of sense to me that you would expect a good outcome from something you put crap into. I've always been very interested in engines and cars, and I know that you get out of your machine what you put into your machine. And here we are, the greatest living machinery on the face of the earth. This just all functions so beautifully and perfectly when looked after. But we expect that we're going to put all this crap in and get good results. And of course, then we don't. Then we put more poison in, and then when that comes to, and then we start to cut it, radiate it, and then I realised that mainstream medicine offered 3 lines of attack. They'll either poison it, burn it, or cut it. And I thought, you know what, I wouldn't like that to happen to me. And I have no intention of letting that happen to me. And we've tried to share that with people, and we have had really no negative results. We've not had people die from anything that we've done or get sicker. It's been a very, very I said 33 years in the beginning, it's actually 32 years I've been doing it. But it's been good.
What's the name of the current retreat center? Because you were talking about the first one.
Yes, the first one we just called it Grampians Health Retreat. I then moved to a few different ones. I moved to after that closed down, and I had a few little minor marriage problems, we decided to move to America, where I used to travel across America selling boomerangs, because my first wife was an Aboriginal girl and her family made boomerangs. So I took the boomerangs to the US, and I was quite enjoyed throwing boomerangs and used to put on exhibitions. And it was at the time when Paul Hogan was doing his Crocodile Dundee, so I had the hat on, I had the boomerang, and had my little children, and we used to go there as a little part of Australia. We had a lot of fun. Then I came back, and a friend of mine had bought a retreat. He bought some land in the Noosa hinterland in Queensland, and he asked me would I come on board and help him run that. So I went there as his business manager and project manager. And I spent about 8 years. No, I spent 9 years there. Then I left there, and then I moved to Melbourne, where I was asked to start and manage another health retreat, which I did in a place called Narberthong, which was in the Yarra Ranges, and I was there for 6 years, and we built that up and got it successful. And then I'd already purchased land, or a leasehold land, up in the Upper Macleay at 5 Day Creek. We purchased that, and we started the Misty Mountain Health Retreat. Now, the name was only because the property was called Misty Mountain, so we thought, well, that's it, what a perfect name, Misty Mountain Health Retreat. We just moved in there, and I was there for probably about 8 or 9 years. And then this place we're currently at, which is still called Misty Mountain, was an Aboriginal boarding school which had closed down and was standing vacant and derelict and starting to be vandalised. So we made an offer with the receivers who were in charge of it at the time, and then we moved our operation here. So I've been here 9 years.
Yeah, and you actually volunteered to work at the school.
Well, it's an amazing thing. In 1978, I drove onto this property and came here to do some volunteer work. And it was in the early stages an Aboriginal school, and there was just covered with little children, and they were all happy. They had a wonderful place. They didn't get any government funding. They had the man that started, his name was Eddie Rosenthal, who was a minister of religion from South Africa, and he had a strong conviction that he could help the people, but he didn't want any government funding, therefore not having to conform to their ideology. He also had a little program where the children had to work 17 hours a week, and they had timesheets, and it was such a happy place. Just a happy place. I loved it. In fact, I met my first wife here, and I married her, and I came back and lived in the area. We had raised our children in their early days up here.
I guess that's where all of it starts, is at school with the young kids. Where we are today.
Yeah.
You know, we started as babies, go to kids, toddlers, teenagers, and then we're these adults. And I guess that's why our minds are the way they are, because they start using these particular ways to teach us or program us in school. And schools like this one that you worked on, they were doing the opposite.
Absolutely. That was it was a wonderful place. I came here many times after. I didn't meet my wife initially, but I think it was something like 5 years later. The school was still coming, but I loved to come here to visit. It was just a happy place in a world that's not as happy. I enjoyed the environment, the fresh running water, just everything about it, and the natural and uninhibited freedom and beauty of the people that were here. Loved it.
Going off that, speaking about the beauty and the freedom and the nature and what's your perspective on freedom of choice and freedom of speech
Yes.
in Australia? Do you
Yes.
think the people have it here?
No, I don't. I think freedom of choice is fast retreating from Australia and has been for a while. We have, if you are happy to live in the prescribed way that the government would like us to live and to think, then you probably can survive, live, work, save your super, get your house and die. But, I'm not really satisfied with that, because it comes with that is their ideas. Now, in 2015, when I saw the policies that were being promoted from the Murdoch press and the state I live in, New South Wales, primarily from the Daily Telegraph, just passionately and vigorously promoting a sort of a rhetoric that was against people who didn't agree with compulsory or vaccination. Okay, they didn't agree with vaccination. I didn't agree with vaccination. Now, why didn't I agree with vaccination? Am I a scientist? No, I'm not. But I am a parent. And when my son had his first vaccination, which we did decide to do in the interest of safety, my first wife was a nurse, he had a terrible reaction. We went back to, we went to the doctors, we went and did all that sort of thing, and they said, purely coincidental. He's just had a little problem. It's got nothing to do with the vaccine. 90% we accepted that. There was a 10% reservation until we had the next vaccination. It was worse then. In fact, we wondered if he was going to die. That's how bad it was. And we could see the pattern now. Here it was. He, bang, a healthy little boy has his vaccination, very ill for quite a while. I'm talking probably 3 weeks. Next vaccination, he had terrible respiratory problems which lasted for years, and he was in a bad state for probably a month or 2 months. We just decided, well, we won't do that again. Okay, that was our decision. We just thought, well, we won't do that again, that's for sure. And we were able to do that. There was no stigma placed on us. We weren't called anti-vax. We weren't told that we were some sort of enemy of state, that we were irresponsible parents. We just did it, and that was accepted as our choice. Fast forward 20, well, he's 35 now, so 30 years plus. To make that decision now, my whole credibility would be called into question. I would be considered to be anti-vax, unscientific, and possibly an irresponsible parent. I would be denied legitimate funding that comes from the government, which is only my own tax dollars coming back to me. I would be excluded from sending my child to school, but that wouldn't be a problem to me. But there would be many things I would be excluded from. So, yeah, we've really seen a serious decline in freedom of choice.
And it's those labels that they classify people under that veer the public away from even going and questioning what could be false or what is false or what is a lie. Just because it says anti-vax, that makes people run away and go the opposite way. And let me clear things up. You're not anti-vax.
No, I'm not anti-vax in as much as that I'm happy to believe anything as long as I can be shown the facts. Okay? That's all we want. We just want information. We want information, and we want the freedom to choose. Now, my second daughter, we decided not to vaccinate her at all. We never vaccinated my son again, and we decided never to vaccinate her. She's now 33 years old, and she's never As far as I know, she's never been to a doctor. Certainly never in her childhood. There was no reason to. She got some basic childhood illnesses. She actually got the chicken pox. We weren't in the slightest bit concerned. She had the chicken pox. Wow. That was, once upon a time, getting the measles and the chicken pox were considered just a rite of passage disease. You know, people got it, we talked about it, they stayed home from school for a couple of days, possibly other children might like to come and even be near them so that they would get it to build their natural herd immunity. But now, God forbid, someone gets chicken pox or measles, the nation wants to melt down as if something catastrophic has happened in our midst, that we're all at threat, all our children. And what's the solution? We're going to be charging around, plunging these injections into our children that are unproven to be effective, unproven to be safe. In fact, we have no proper safety studies. And this is what I'm expected to buy from a company that designs, markets, manufactures, and makes a lot of money from. And they're the authorities that I'm to take their word that these are safe and good. I can't. I just can't. To me, it's be like being in charge of the government purse to buy motor cars for the government. My job is to buy motor cars for all the government workers. Who are we going to get to decide this? Well, let's get the chairman of Toyota to make that decision. He will make the fairest decision, and we will know that within 12 months every government car is a Toyota, because he has a financial bias by his position to do that. And here we're relying on pharmaceutical and organisations like the TGA and the CDC in America to give us information, but these are platooned with pharmaceutical people. It's just unconscionable how it got this way. So you ask me if I'm anti-vax. No, but I'm anti the current program that doesn't have proper safety or accountability. I have no confidence in it anymore. And having experienced a negative effect, I'm vaccine wary, and I'm pro-choice. And
to challenge the safety of these vaccines, the people running the show, they won't even have open public debate about the safety of vaccines.
No.
Have you tried to challenge them in any way?
We have. I've challenged a few people to have a debate about it. They will not have a public debate. I know people that are much smarter on the science than me, like scientists, like scientist Judy Weilerman. She's up for debate with anybody on this subject, but no one will debate her. You know why? Because she knows what she's talking about. And they don't know what they're talking about. They're just reading their script, regurgitating what they've been told, as if it's, the holy oracles that have come straight from heaven.
From the pharmaceutical.
Unbelievable. There's no other product in the world where we rely on the manufacturer's guarantees for quality and safety. There is no one. That it's absurd. We have actually come to accept an absurdity as a fact. And thinking people all over the world are just shaking their head. Now, I've given you my little story that I've had vaccine damage to my first child. Most people that are considered anti-vax but are vaccine wary and vaccine cautious people have all had a bad experience pretty much across the board. They never started out to be, well, I'm going to be an anti-vaxxer. These people have had a problem and have met with such resistance. Just a terrible thing. A parent, you have your child, your child. You have it from birth. And then someone that doesn't know your child, that doesn't really care for your child, they're going to tell you that you don't know what you're talking about. Goodness me.
And every being's different.
Absolutely.
Not every vaccine's going to work the same on one person, let alone billions of people.
Yes.
And the media doesn't really publicize these people that are injured by vaccines, even though there's a court that's paid over $4.7 billion or something in the States on vaccine injuries.
And it's the tip of the iceberg.
It's a tip.
If they remove their liability exemption, they'd be out of business. There's just such an enormous amount of people. I like it to the USSR. In the USSR, citizens during Stalin's reign were disappearing out of every town and village across the USSR and going into the gulags in the millions. But everybody knew someone that had gone in their block, their neighbour, but they all thought it was a local, and they were all told, well, he was an enemy of state. He was we had to deal with him, and they accepted that. Of course, when it opened up, when Stalin was dead and gone, they realised it was everywhere. It was everywhere. So everybody knows someone that's either got an autistic child, or their friend's got an autistic child, or they're talking about, well, we had some damage. But people think, oh, they're the 1 in a million. I happen to know them. But it's not. If media did their job and really opened this up, they would realise it's right across the land. It's in every town, every street, every village across this nation. It's huge.
And that's what we're doing.
Information is locked down. It's tight.
Imagine they put labels on vaccines with the ingredients and the side effects as they do any other thing you put in your body.
Well, like tobacco. They have these horrific pictures on the cigarette pack. Well, let's just have a look at that. Have the autistic child, have the grave from the child that died of cot death, this mysterious cot death that we know was eliminated by the Japanese when they eliminated their early childhood vaccination program. Things don't happen. Things just don't happen. All of a sudden, we never had it when I was young. All of a sudden now we have this cot death, this mysterious cot death. Why? I've discovered there's a playing that you can look at anything and examine it, but there are conclusions that you cannot reach. And that there's a platform here, and it's called Vaccines Are Never the Cause. So you can look at anything, you can come up with any conclusion, but you can never drop into that one. That's a forbidden zone. And as soon as any scientist, and there have been many researchers that have looked and said, wait a minute, it's the vaccines, or partially the vaccines, they are immediately closed down. They will look at their research, they will find small mistakes they made, like in the case of Andrew Wakefield, that pretty much all scientists make, and they will count them as fraud and then diminish, just gut all his work. These men will one day be heroes, and so they should be, for blowing the whistle. We talk about whistleblowers, and we like to see whistleblowers, but there are things you can't blow the whistle on. We can't upset the vaccine mantra and their bottom line there. It's just a terrible thing. We've come to a terrible place in Australia.
I think we are going to disturb that mantra.
Well, I hope so. I hope so, because I remember, I'm old enough to remember Australia, how it used to be. I'm really distressed about how Australia has become. I remember when it was a country where there was a lot of freedom, that you could travel. Currently, at the moment, we're in a meltdown over what? Over what? We have 100 people apparently, and even that would be up for question, died because of COVID-19. They're nearly all 80s and 90s. When did that become a news item in the history? When an 80 or a 90-year-old died, it was a small event where the family had a little tear. They closed, they organised the funeral and hung the pictures up and said, Grandma, Granddad's passed on. It was expected. It was a normal passage out of life at that age. Now, it's a catastrophe. What is it? 100 people have died in Australia. In the same period, from January to now, there's about 500 people died in car crashes. I mean, we now know, when we can look at this, and we know without a doubt that the whole thing is nothing. Our death rate and worldwide has been normal. There has been no pandemic. Pandemic is 50 million people. There's been no pandemic. There's been no pandemic in Italy. There's been no pandemic anywhere. Sorry, I'm diverging here at the moment, but I have a friend. I have a friend who's been in Africa for nearly 25 years. He lives in Kenya. He told me he lives near the border. There's Kenya and there's Tanzania. In Tanzania, the president said, I don't believe it. In fact, he ran tests, as you know, have heard on the media. They got serum from pawpaws, goats. They sent it off and they came back as positive.
Yeah.
They proved the tests were bogus. He has had no lockdown. Across the border in Kenya, they've had massive lockdown. People are dying because of the lockdown. They're beating people in the streets horrifically because they're not social distancing and keeping off the street in the curfews. These people have nowhere to live. They're just living on the street. They live next to each other. It's absurd. And what is the result? Pretty much the same. There's no real difference in the death toll in either country.
They're labeling every deaths as corona, that even if they die from cancer or...
Yeah. I can't trust them. I'm sorry, I just can't even trust what they say. It's a terrible thing that we have government departments that have such a high level of distrust in the population. I have a huge distrust of anything that they say. I have a huge distrust of media. I used to be an avid media reader. I used to buy the papers. I would buy them every day, many times too, and I'd read them. I wanted to find out what was happening in the world, but I've stopped because they are not genuine reporters anymore. They don't report on events and give you this unbiased, just a critical analysis of what happened. It's all commentary. They have their opinions. So you can buy this paper because it's a left wing, this is because it's a right wing. But they all have, on the vaccine question, they all have one idea. They're good and we need it.
And anyone that doesn't believe that is anti-vax.
Anti-vax. And it really doesn't matter which mainstream media, they've all embraced this. To step out of that idea, they will find themselves in serious problems. Yeah, very sad.
That goes to show that the mainstream media has a big play on the perspective of the public.
Yes.
On world topics. Any world topic.
Yeah, sure.
And if you're only getting your source of information from mainstream, then you're only getting one side. It looks like a bunch of different sides, left and right, but it's all one side. But all these sides are there to confuse you. But if you go alternative, there's so many independent people, doctors, nurses, engineers, health retreat center owners, people that just can see using their common sense that, I'm able to have a choice and go test this and go ask questions about these things. Whereas from the mainstream, you don't get to ask questions, you just get told.
Yes, that's right. Yes. And if you rise your head too much, and if you have some sort of profile and come out and raise that question in the public arena, they will just decimate. They won't touch your information. They will never look at it in any sort of scientific analysis or even question it objectively. Is this true? No, they will come at you personally. They will hit you. You're a nut. They might dig up something else on your past. They will just denigrate you personally. It's horrific.
So you believe that the media ridicules, silence, and bans people when they speak up for speaking?
I certainly do.
Have you been silenced or ridiculed or banned or kicked off social media or... give us the depths of the ocean.
Yeah, well, there's just so much has happened, really. But when I got into the political party, I don't think I mentioned that to you. I decided in 2015 that I would start a political party because I contacted every mainstream political party and even some of the minor parties. What were they going to do about this terrible no jab, no pay legislation that was coming up? And they were all, oh no, vaccines are important, and they were terrified of touching it. Even a few parties that once we had got talking a bit felt it was bad policy, were not willing to step out and take any public position on it because they said it was a vote loser. And I thought, really, I'm sure there must be a lot of people out there that are very distressed about this. So I decided to start a political party. The current name of the political party is the Informed Medical Options Party. And we contested the last federal election with seats. We contested seats in the Senate in Western Australia, New South Wales, Queensland, and also House of Reps. We contested a seat in the Northern Rivers. Since I've embarked on that, I've been gobsmacked at the level of persecution that has come our way. Like, it's supposed to be a free and democratic country where we can have an opinion and bring them out into the public arena. They've come after our business. I've been under investigation on this business just through this. My wife, who's never hurt a person in her life, who's been travelling the world and in Australia helping people with their health, has now been struck off and banned. I've been pulled up in the street driving my car, being told that I've abducted a child. I was interrogated at Newcastle Airport as having a child abducted that was in my car. I said, my car's out there, have a look. I couldn't believe it. Of course, there was nothing. The police apologised. They said we had some very, very strong complaints of good information that you were guilty of this child abduction. Anyway, the whole thing came to nothing. Currently, we've been investigated by the ACNC. They said that we're tax frauds. This is just a nonsense. I just realised that these people are not nice people, and this is very important to them. And of course, they enlist a lot of other people that are just plain ignorant. They're trolls and other misguided people that feel free to attack you at any time. It seems to be a cloak that they can justify any sort of foul thing they say or do to you that's okay. I see a striking parallels. I've always been interested in, the Nazi takeover of Germany, and of course they had their own propaganda campaign. They had Joseph Goebbels was the Minister of Public Enlightenment and Propaganda. Can you believe it? That was his title, the Minister of Public Enlightenment and Propaganda. And they systematically went out to change the minds of the people. Right, bizarre. And so they changed people's mind about certain people that lived amongst them, the Jews. They were unclean, they were dirty, they were responsible for everything bad that was happening in society. But it went further. These people were just there because of their birth, but then they attacked Jehovah's Witnesses, they attacked homosexuals. And of course the general public went along completely with us. They think, well, they can just change their mind and they won't go to jail. But all natural sympathy for these people was gone in the German society. Even after the war, Germans found it very hard to tolerate any Jew. Even though they'd lost the war, the camps are exposed. So we have this deep programming in our society. We don't have a ministry of enlightenment and propaganda. We have the newspapers, we have the television, we have ABC, SBS, Channel 10, Channel 9, Channel 7, and all the rest of the overseas media organisations.
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
That's right. Our parties had our Facebooks come down on us on our Facebook pages. Our YouTubes often get scrapped. All we're trying to do is spread information, but it's deemed to be a threat to, misinformation. We're told it's misinformation. It's information. It's not even misinformation. It's quite bizarre. Those that give misinformation, that's acceptable. That's good information. In a fair, rational and equal society, we have nothing to fear from information, good information or bad information. People are not stupid. Let people decide what information they believe, Do we have to control people's very thought processes? But there's a lot of money to be made. I understand that Bill Gates is building 7 vaccination factories at the moment. And I can believe that, and I can state it here because I saw him on my computer saying it, and he was spending billions of dollars to build it. Conspiracy theory, it's happening. This is a huge growth industry, and one of the reasons it's so growth is because there's no threat of liability. They can produce a drug for diabetes, and if that's got problems, they can be sued. They can do something for cancer, they can be sued. But on a vaccine, it's a free ticket. It's a free ticket all the way to the bank.
When it comes to a decision like in court, for instance, over a case and someone being prosecuted, there's a jury there.
Yes.
The public, they get to hear both sides.
That's correct.
And then they get to decide.
That's right.
Where is that with anything we choose to do for the whole of humanity? Like choosing the United Nations, choosing who does the vaccines, choosing who elects these presidents, choosing who approves the chemicals being in our food or our water or our air. It's like, where's the jury?
Yes.
Publicly.
That's right.
It's madness.
We actually have really a totalitarian regime under the cover of a democracy. It's the greatest fallacy. I believe we used to be a free society at one point, but it's fast. In my lifetime, I've seen it go. Very sad. I find it quite distressing, actually. And I look at my grandchildren, and it really bothers me to see them so glued to these damn screens that they're onto. And I feel like, really, what hope with them? They're being, the propaganda is happening right at that age. They're being manipulated mentally.
Well, now when you post something, or at least when I post something on Facebook, and it's a bit of alternative information, people will attack me, and they'll use these things called fact checkers, these websites, and there's a website called Snopes, and literally it's a website saying this is the truth, and whatever else is being said is the lie. And it's like, there are people funding these websites. There are people funding the fact checkers. Probably the same people that are censoring this on Facebook.
Yeah, sure.
I almost believe that sometimes they're throwing out different conspiracies just to throw people off, because the people that are throwing out a bit of information that might provide a bit of truth, like for instance with 5G and coronavirus, the truth is that 5G radiation can cause symptoms that are like flu, but there's been this conspiracy that's been twisting it, saying that the 5G towers spreads coronavirus, and like I feel like that's intentionally done in a way,
yes,
to throw people off of just being able to even try to go look for the truth.
Well, that's not a new that's not a new practice.
No.
Nero did it, Hitler did it. Whatever's worked, no good in just do it again. The average citizen might tell the occasional lie and do a little bit of a tweak in the truth in their life, but they won't do big things. They might lie on their tax, but they're not going to break into their neighbour's home and steal or say something that'll be catastrophically wrong for them. And we find it hard to imagine that our governments or people in the responsible positions might do this, but they do. They do. And the general population finds it very hard to get their mind around it, and I did too. I feel I'd rather trust than distrust. It's just what I'd rather do. But I've been hurt by that philosophy. Doesn't mean that I'm still not going to trust, but there are so many people out there that I know that are purely and simply devious. They have no good intent in their life. They're greedy for whatever little parameters that push them through their life. And I find it quite disheartening, really, that this is where the world has come to.
What's your perspective on 5G? And do you think that we should have a choice when it comes to the safety, and just a choice of the infrastructure going up, just like vaccines going in our bodies?
I think that there's a lot of controversy around 5G, and I don't know all the facts. I can believe anything, I just have to be proved. I have not been proved that there is the level of damage from 5G that some of my friends claim, but I think there's enough there that there needs to be investigated. I believe that if a section of the community are saying, I believe there's a problem here, or this has affected me, or whatever they believe. I think there needs to be open and transparent investigation. I'd like to know. I really would like to know. I hardly think we're going to get that truth out of the government. And this only perpetuates and makes people entrench more, and then can make it grow to be bigger than maybe it is.
It hasn't been tested on people. Maybe they've tested it on rats or something, but it hasn't been tested on...
It hasn't been a big thrust in my life. I've been very consumed with other things, but I've read quite a bit, and there does seem to be some serious doubts. Some things I just dismiss. I think, oh, that was just as bad as the opposite side of vaccinations. You know, it was a whole lot of speculation with and rhetoric. You know, I would like to see some very serious analysis of it and to be made public. Just yeah, we've nothing to fear from the truth. Like, if it hurts, it hurts. It hurts good, bad, and the ugly. Let's find out.
We should be able to say we want 5G for faster internet.
Yeah.
So the technology that they're bringing into play, which also should be our choice, they're saying that's why they're bringing in 5G to make this, fly quicker and faster. But when you see all the cameras and stuff being set up around the cities and all these sort of surveillance control mechanisms that they're deeming to be for our safety, you start to really see why 5G is being pumped out, and it could potentially be to surveillance, and this is going back to COVID-19. What do you think the motive there is? If there is no state of pandemic, why have they shut down the world? In a nutshell, of what you believe.
Well, there's a few different ideas. I sort of tend to think I'm very concerned about the idea and argument that they want to have us all vaccinated, and there's been nothing hidden about that. Bill Gates, Fauci, CDC, and all these people at a high level, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they would all love to see everybody vaccinated. There's just a crippling, it's unimaginable amount of money. Bill Gates himself, I don't think it's in for the money. He's the richest man in the world. He couldn't possibly spend it on any sort of human excesses in his lifetime. But there's things that transcend money. It's power and recognition and some sort of reputational immortality, which I think he's possibly seeking for. I think he's a very stupid man. He's just a computer geek that doesn't understand the principles of free choice, and he's got himself set in his brain. We know many people that are like it, that can be set on one idea, and it doesn't matter if he's the richest man in the world, he's still victim of it himself. And it really bothers me. That's where I don't think they could have pulled it off, but now they've shut the world down for nothing. And I don't say that lightly, for nothing, because really it's a nothing thing. Statistically, the coronavirus has not been any bigger than any normal flu season in any other age. It's not that big. Not at all. And we've shut the world down.
But they use propaganda like we're controlling the virus.
Oh yes, flattening the curve. All this new language, flattening the curve. Like, flattening the curve. Everyone's walking around talking about flattening the curve like they're some smart scientist. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about, flattening the curve? You don't even know what we're talking about. The media's come on there and talked about flattening the curve, so everyone's walking around talking about it. Social distancing. We've created an anti-social environment in the name of social distancing. No, it's anti-social distancing. Let's get it right. We are legislating anti-social behaviour. We are turning neighbour against neighbour, citizen against citizen, families against each other. We're denying people the natural right to affection to their elderly. I get calls from people who can't visit their dying mother because they won't get the flu vaccine. But last month it was okay. No, they were no threat to society then. They could visit. But now all of a sudden, unbelievably stupid, unbelievably evil is what I think it is.
I think so as well.
Yeah.
what do you think about all these nurses and doctors and immunologists and virologists and police officers, and people like Judy Mikovits and Dr. Bitar, all these people are being silenced just for speaking up. Like, what do you think about them? Because obviously it's been happening.
Yes, I know pretty well everyone that you've mentioned by name, and I think that personally, I think they are very brave people. I take my hat off to them if I had it on. They are people that are willing to forfeit their financial and reputational position in society and go out on a limb and say, no, 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 all is not well here. Something is very wrong. You have to admire them. They are ridiculed in the media. The media. Honestly, I have...
Just like you. You're one of those people.
Yeah, well, we're just doing it on a small scale, but I tell you, it's a horrible thing. These people are just speaking the truth. And even if it wasn't 100% true what they're saying, why can't a person have a voice? Why can't people come out and say, well, look, I have a different opinion. We've seen this, whether it's the medical people working in the hospitals in New York and saying, actually, we saw, like the ventilators were causing problems, and Dr. Judy coming on and, from her position, which is very well qualified to say what she's saying, obviously, she has wrecked her career in many ways by doing it. That makes her extremely ethical. Her ethical credentials are impeccable. Not so those that just will probably win awards for saying nothing and for repeating the mantra. Maybe it's all upside down.
When all the truth comes to surface and everyone sees what's going on, because it's going to happen sooner or later. These people like that, and like you and independent people, I would say like us, going out trying to expose this on all levels, those people are going to be seen in the light, because I believe there's a beautiful world coming. You have to go through hardship and downfalls and bleeding and sweating in any relationship, in anything in life. To get to that beautiful standpoint, you have to go through chaos. And I think that's what's happening now, in a sense. It's just that chaotic period. They know that they're losing. They're moving too fast, and there's too many people waking up because of people like us.
I think of what Australians once upon a time considered worthy to die for. They considered it worthy to die for freedoms of other people they never even knew. And we valued freedom as paramount and our personal safety as secondary. Now we've been fed that the mantra of safety overrides freedom. We've had it all tipped up the wrong way around. So now we're all scurrying around like scared rats, worrying about our own personal safety, ready to kill or dob in or do something against anybody that threatens my personal safety, and throwing their freedom out. Take our freedom. But we must have safety at any cost. I value freedom above all things, and I've often asked myself, am I prepared to die? People died for freedom. Am I prepared to die for freedom? And I've actually had to fairly and squarely look at it, and I thought, yes, I am. I'm prepared to die. Am I prepared to lose everything I own? And I was told this when I got into politics. A lady came to me in politics. She said, Michael, you are on a very, very unpopular platform. Are you prepared to lose everything that you own? Because that's what they will come after. Everything that you own, your reputation, your money. And I thought about that, and I went home, and I didn't give her an answer straight away, but I thought, yes. Otherwise, I'm just wasting my time. Yeah, because there will come a point where all that, it may cost you that. Are you prepared to give it up? Or will that be the point where you'll just capitulate on your conviction and just be like everyone else that's primary concern is their personal safety and their own financial position and freedom? I
feel that shift in me just surrounding COVID-19 and seeing the blatant lies.
Yeah.
I can't sit and watch anymore, and if it risks me dying or getting injured or physically hurt for coming and talking to people like you taking this journey up north to talk to all these people, so be it. And I look at freedom as if someone would look at their kid being stolen. You wouldn't stop looking for your kid if it got stolen.
No, that's a very good analogy.
And my freedom's been stolen, and I'm not going to stop looking for it.
No.
You know, it's the common sense, like we were talking about earlier. They take it out of you in public school. Like, they take it out of you since day one.
I heard someone say, the policeman on the radio, it was during a holiday season, he said, "We're just urging that everyone use common sense." And I thought, I almost screamed. I said, "What are you talking about common sense? You've legislated against it many years ago, everywhere, at every level. On the roads, in society, in the education system, common sense is illegal." And they're telling us, let's have common sense. It's just rhetoric.
Mate, it's so backwards. Like we drove to Byron. That was the first interview we had there, and literally on the highway it says there's signs that you're driving past saying stop, survive, revive.
Yeah.
We stop to pull off into a parking lot, and we get knocked on the window going, "You can't park here." Obviously, there might be designated places to park, but when the signs are saying "stop, survive, or revive," you know, to be safe, which they're pushing to enforce all these laws. When you stop to do things that are safe, you get fined for it because they say you can't park here overnight when it's a parking lot next to the beach. Whatever the rules and policies surrounding that law are, it's just so contradictory and backwards, this system.
There's a general selfishness in our society which really alarms me. I used to be the president of tourism up here in this North Coast area, and I was so discouraged by our lawmakers and the pettiness of people down in Crescent Head. Everyone started to complain about backpackers parking on the beach. And I used to think, what? It's a free country. They're parking. But they drop rubbish, and we're paying rates here. Why aren't they? And I thought, are we so damn petty? You know, like we just become selfish. I don't know. It just really gets me the way we've become like this. And I'm glad I can't even be in a public position because I just find it all too difficult.
Yeah, in Mexico, you're allowed to camp on any beach. we driving around Mexico. You're allowed to stop, camp in the parking lot if you want. And here, everything you have to pay for.
You do, and I just think of that person living across the road. It's extremely selfish of them. They don't think, well, I was young and I was free. Maybe they never were, but where you camped and when I was young, we hitchhiked everywhere. I can remember sleeping where you could, finding some places. But now that's all legislated against. Well, that would be unsafe. Oh, that could be unhygienic. It just goes on and on and on. So we're all regulated. No, we'll drive this certain way. We'll stay in these places. We will go here. We won't go there.
Without question.
Yeah, and everyone, and then if anyone sees you, they would be dobbing on you. They're down there. They're camping. I suspect they're going to stay overnight, and they didn't pay a fee.
It's ridiculous.
I know.
When you were talking about the people coming after everything you got when you joined the political party, who did you mean by, or who did she mean by they? Or
she felt that it would be the media and government departments would come after me. Yeah.
So government deliberately.
I have found that it's the media that leads the charge. I used to think that it was the government and the media was their propaganda machine, but I've realised now that unlike in Germany where the government controlled the media, that the media controls the government. The government is in lockstep. The media decides the issues, it decides who will be in government and who will not be in government. This whole stoush between the coalition and Labor is determined largely by Rupert Murdoch. He uses the full force of his media empire to put into our government who he decides. And the government knows this and they're terrified of it. And whatever the media deems as acceptable will be acceptable to the government. Whatever is unacceptable to the media will be unacceptable to the government. They will not cross the floor on this. They're not brave souls. They will give everything to maintain their position and their little power bases. And if anyone in that party gets out of lockstep and, has a different voice, they will find themselves, they'll go. The party will turn on them. They'll lose their cabinet position if they're a cabinet minister, and they may even they'll probably lose their pre-selection at the next.
Because there's agendas, there's plots, there's motive and intention that might not be in the best interest of the human beings.
Yes.
But there are people that conspire to create and take advantage of people, and small businesses and the world.
That's correct. Yes, it is quite sinister how it all happens, and we're down here pawns. Originally, the people. It was all about we the people. We don't have a say. We are fodder. We can clean the houses. We can make sure a society functions as long as you don't breed too much. I felt this whole COVID-19 is extremely racist personally, because really it's a first world problem, and they've inflicted it onto the third world through Asia and Africa to these poorer nations who are really suffering and struggling because just so that the first world can feel some sort of safety. That really makes me angry, because I feel it's an incredibly racist policy pushed by the World Health Organization and the media and all the governments just frantically getting into lockstep, not to be appeared to be out of step. A few leaders do. President of Tanzania, the President of Belarus, but not many. They're all just pulling into line and doing what they're told.
Thing as well, right? Like this makes people believe that Africa is full of diseases because they've dealt with AIDS in the past, or any other virus, or wherever they've said, "Oh, this is what's happening here in this country. This is third world." Even another program. They've told people that's what third world is, when it's actually just a bit more primitive from your bombardment of westernized technology and pharmaceuticals, whereas these people are still kind of living off the land. And psychologically, it's like third world just means gross or dirty to people, or just less established.
Well, I travel a lot. I'm a platinum frequent flyer with Qantas, which just is indicative of how much I do travel. I go to Africa, I go to Asia, I go to America. We travel all over the world. But one thing I notice, the Americans, their bodies are getting bigger and their faces and their smiles are getting smaller and longer. But if you go into Africa, these so-called privileged countries, smiles are prolific, and there's some negatives there, but we've inflicted this racist policy onto them to shut down, flatten the curve, save the world. It's save us. Couldn't care. Don't give a stuff about them, really.
Imagine all the African Americans went back to Africa because it was so beautiful, and they knew the serenity of it, and they knew how incredible it was there. America would lose a lot of money, a lot of influence.
Africa was one place I considered about moving to. I'm here. I have our own little world up here.
For sure. What picture has the media painted you as? And is there anything that you would like to say to clear up any confusion about that perspective that the public might have of you because of the media?
The media hasn't really dealt with me personally that much. I feel that they've actually purposely kept quiet about me, because if they're going to talk about me, they're going to talk about the political party. And I've realised, particularly the Murdoch press, go to great lengths not to mention the party's name or things about the party. I've been attacked as a dishonest manager of a retreat that's rorting tax dollars, which has been now proved to be completely bogus. Of course, the media won't print about that. But I do feel sorry for many other very, very ethical and good people that are like Judy Weilerman, like Kevin Coleman. Yeah, there are many good people. The footballer, Bryce, Taylor Winterstein, She's had a rough trot for no good reason. But they sit in this crystal palace. They can just lob out all their rubbish, and there's no recourse to come back at them. Even their people's pages, letters to the editor, are pretty much closed to us. I gave up writing letters to them because they don't print them. They ignore them. I used to write letters to the editor on other issues before I really got into this. They used to print my letters. I'd get a lot of letters printed. But once I got into the vaccination, I don't print my letters. No, I think they're quite well constructed letters. They're of no interest. They would be just dumped.
It's just annoying.
Does that answer any question there?
That's answered my question. Yeah, just sucks, man. Just sucks that anything that is against, or just a different opinion, a different perspective, is just deleted. Just like history in itself, they just give you the history they want, and that's what they're doing with all this censoring now. They're deleting the history that will be.
Yes.
Because they've already deleted the history that we know, and they're giving us this false history mixed with a bunch of lies. But now they're deleting the history, and we're making the history.
Yes.
But they're trying to delete us.
That's correct.
Or we're trying to make the future as well. So it's all coincides in the parallel. How would you like to see the world change in a positive light? And how do you see that shifting into the world that we, the people, want it to be?
I would like to see a world where that was not controlled by these huge interests, where money rules and that we are just feel like pawns. I'd like to see where I don't know how we're going to come at it, okay? I really don't know how. I often thought about this. Is it a war? What really happens to turn the tide? Because they have the people on side, and if anything has shown me just how utterly duped mainstream society was this COVID-19 business. There was no pandemic. The only pandemic we have is a pandemic of ignorance and fear. There's no health pandemic. And statistically that'll all come out and has come out, but it'll be re-emphasised as time goes on. Yeah, I'd like to see that where people just still have freedom restored to them, where everybody's opinion is of value, and that we can have an opinion, but we're not legislated against for that opinion. How it used to be. Like I said before, I could have an opinion about not vaccinating my child, and no one cared. That was my right. A parent's right was paramount over the doctor's opinion, and that's all lost. I despair that freedom has gone, and at the moment is on a wave coming in, and it hasn't broken. It's still riding in, and it's got a ways to go. But eventually, it's going to have to hit the hard beach and flatten out and
wipe some people out.
Yeah, maybe when it goes back and people see there's some sort of revolution, but it's a very difficult one because this is a worldwide duped.
We have the internet now, and that's what's the revolution is actually happening now on the internet, and that's why censoring and the media's lies are so hard right now and heavy, because the revolution is on the computer.
We attack our politicians, yes, but I often feel that the real centre of attack has to be on media, and I don't know how really to do it.
We're doing it.
Okay, good. Because they are our enemy, the media. They're unelected, they're unappointed, and even the foot soldiers in the media don't even realise the insidious nature that they're involved in. I heard a story that was told to me by a journalist, and she heard she said, we're in a pub in Sydney, and there was a News Corp journalist there, works for the Daily Telegraph, and he said that a story had come out. They were told that they had to go and do a story on the lack of safety in child playgrounds. So they went out to investigate, and They came back and they said, there is no issue in Australia. We have the safest playgrounds in the world. They're padded. They all conform to every standard known to man. They're very, very good condition. Word came back, go and find a story. There must be a story. So they went to some playground and they found a rusty bolt. So they zeroed in on it and they played the music and they found the story. And she told me, she said, that's what you're up against, Michael. She said, they make a story when there is no story. And I felt quite discouraged after that little conversation because I realised that's where we're at. They're making a story where there is no story. They're vilifying very good people. They're taking the heroes in our society and making them out to be devils and the enemy of state. We're seeing enacted right before our eyes the very same tactics that we used against good people in other totalitarian regimes of the past. It's all happening here in Australia. And just like the majority of the people that were involved in that didn't realise it was happening around them, it's happening now. And most people feel they're being good citizens, when in actual fact they're part of the problem.
They say that history repeats itself, but it hasn't left.
No, it's just a cycle. History keeps repeating itself. And I often ask myself, am I the one that's out of step? But I only look at the facts. I like to look at everything and have a reasonable analysis of everything that I believe from time to time. Am I actually wrong? Doesn't matter how long I've believed it. Can it stand up to scrutiny? Many people try to convince me of many things. And I always tell people I can believe anything. I just need evidence. And
the people like us trying to just provide evidence and search for evidence, we're just trying to do good. That's all we're trying to do. And like you said, we're being vilified. And
it's like the house is on fire and the children are trapped inside, and we say, "There's a fire! There's a fire!" And people waking up, "You troublemaker!" It's you that caused the problem. I'm just telling you that
Yeah.
Or the brakes are failing on the car. I can see it. I can see the oil dripping out. It's going to crash. You idiot! Get out of our way. This is a good car. I've had personal guarantees from the manufacturer.
I like how you referred to a car as, related that to health, because I always said that as well, as the body, the car is just like a body that has the paint on the outside, which is the skin. You have the framing, which is the skeleton. You have all the wiring that runs the fuel and the oil and the water to all the parts, which are the organs. And if you put the wrong fuel in there, it gets clogged up, and the car dies, or you have to take it to get repaired. And that's the thing. People take their car to get an annual checkup.
Yes.
Oil clean.
Yeah.
Oil change.
Yes.
But when are we doing that to our real vehicles, And that's what pandemic is health.
That's right.
Because of food and diet.
We have a pandemic of ignorance. We have a pandemic of ill health. People today are overstimulated, they're over-medicated, they're overweight, and wondering why.
One more thing.
Yes.
Just thought of, for change. Can anyone join the IMOP?
Well, always we're looking for members. A person can join the party through our website at imoparty.com, and we're always looking for good people to help, and particularly around election time we need to get the message out, because it's our hope that we may even get someone elected into Parliament that can be unswayed by the political opinion, that don't have a party that says, okay, hold back on this. This is what you've got to promote. No, you can't promote that. We're passionate about these issues, and we need someone in there that can draw attention to these issues and fight for the rights and give people a voice in that house. We'll be able to make speeches to Parliament. We'll be able to introduce bills for debate. That was always my goal. I felt that there's a place for everything, and this is not the be-all and end-all, But this is just one more way, and this was the way I decided to have a go. And I thought, well, I could do this. I think I could I read up how you start a political party, and I thought it was like climbing a Mount Everest, but we did it. And we have amazing people that have joined our forces, and just really wonderful people. We're just mums and dads, tradesmen, we have doctors, we have scientists, we have policemen, we have paramedics, we have a lot of paramedics. They're appalled. One paramedic told me, he said, we see them. We get called to the house and the people will be in distress with their child having febrile convulsions and saying, oh, what's happened? What's happened? And everything was good. He was fine. But we were even at the doctor's today when he had his vaccination. But now look at this. And he said, we just see it. It's the same thing we're hearing all the time. And now they've told them, if you don't get vaccinated with the flu, you can't have your job. These are people that love their job, that are dedicated to their work, and are told unless they can squirt some mercury and formaldehyde and other substances that are in all other applications of life are illegal and not allowed to have any human contact. We actually took the mercury out of people's fillings because it was causing, multiple sclerosis and hopes of other diseases, and now but it's fine to into our body.
It's a small fraction of it.
Of course, it's only small.
Yeah, there's always something.
Yeah, well, I believe personally, and I've not seen any reason, I do believe I was created with a perfect body that has the ability to heal itself. And I absolutely and implicitly trust my body to heal me. I give it good food, I give it all the conditions, and I leave it up to them. If something comes along that it can't do it, then that's fine by me. But I've never found that the case. In fact, I get over things very easy when I do catch something. Disease doesn't bother me. I've never been scared of the flu. I'm not about to be scared of this latest one. So. And
then your body does unnatural things when you put unnatural things in your body.
Of course it does.
It's so simple. Yeah. It's like dogs and wild animals and creatures of the jungle don't go to the hospital or doctor.
No,
and they're doing their natural instinctual things that they were born to do.
Yeah, I'm 63 years old, which is it's getting a little older now. It's getting into, but I'm fit, I'm healthy, I generally don't get sick, I feel good. I can travel, I can run, I can jump, I can do all. I can enjoy life with my children. And I hope I'm going to be able to do it for quite a bit longer. I just keep putting good fuel in. I fuel it up good.
And that's another key is what you say to yourself mentally. How you speak to yourself, because through the series of repetition of propaganda or media's lies, because that's all it is, they repeat the same thing. That's why when you turn on every news station, they're all saying the same thing. Because they have to say the same thing to brainwash you, to trick you into believing that thing. Whereas you and us can take back our minds by doing the same thing, but repeating and saying the things we want to becoming what we truly are. And over that series of repetition, you're able to deprogram yourself and become what you want and detox the mind and do these wellness and retreats and detox the body and become that whole human again.
It's quite bizarre. We've been on the threshold of being closed down a few times. We have nobody complaining about us, no clients complaining about us. We have no evidence of people got worse, only better. We have people, we are no expense on the public purse whatsoever. We employ people. We have a soft footprint, if any, on the earth. We try and enhance the earth, and yet they see us as possibly a dangerous place. My wife was struck off because she was a threat to public health. She was a potential risk to health. I thought, really? A potential risk? Not a risk, a potential risk. Anything can be potentially. I could potentially shoot you, but I'm not going to. But I could shoot you. It's such a... a nonsense.
Yeah. And what did she get silenced for?
She's silenced. In Australia, she cannot. So she's sitting quietly at home, but she'll go overseas because what the words that she speaks, the advice that she gives are life. They're life and hope. And people are hungry for life and hope. And it's almost a crime today. If she had a stethoscope around her neck and she was sprouting off about some pharmaceutical concoction, she'd be probably putting an award on her because she's a good speaker, and if she could promote that well enough and convince people to take things that'll be detrimental to their health in the name of improving their health, they'd give her an award. But no, she's telling people the simple things in life: fresh air, sunshine, exercise, trusting in the divine, having good rest, keeping away from all the poisons of life. One of the other accusations they got her, they said that she discouraged people from seeking mainstream medicine, and she dared, I can't believe it, how could she ever have done it? She dared to tell people that if they alkalined their body, that they could overcome cancer. For that, she was done. She was done. And I was in her hearing, and they couldn't believe it. There was two extremely large women who were sitting there pronouncing the judgment. And I looked at those women and I thought, wow, those poor, unhealthy specimens, and they're the one, and they were saying, and you said using sodium bicarb could help people. Yes, that's right, yes. We put it on the outside, it helped, the body takes it up. Crime.
Many people die for saying these things, or have died.
Yeah.
Luckily, she still is able to speak, because Australia, I feel, they just silence you, but in the States, they get rid of you.
They'll kill you.
They kill you.
Yeah.
Especially when you're battling Big Pharma.
Yeah, and we know there's been many people that have just died mysteriously, and you'd know all about that. I don't know the ins and outs of it all, but it's not just one or two, there's so many. It's beyond coincidental.
Scientists, health practitioners, holistic doctors. There's a guy named Dr. Sabi who was curing people of cancer and AIDS through the alkaline diet and through fasting. He mysteriously just, was in custody, died. Who knows the full story? But the media paints a picture, and that's the end of the story. And then when you go and question it, you have to go dig and dig, because they bury it. So, thank you so much, Michael.
It's a pleasure.